What is going on, guys? It is Dylan here. Today we'll be going over a ticker symbol analysis on the ticker symbol NVDA, Nvidia. Last time we mentioned Nvidia, guys, was around that $100 level. We're really seeing some very strong reversal signs. And Nvidia did end up showing that follow through, which we expected, guys. Very beautiful. A lot of explosive price action. And, this move doesn't seem to be short lived, guys. We're seeing a lot of indications on multiple time frames that this could potentially be the first leg of more to come. I'm gonna go jump over to the weekly. Alrighty, guys. On the weekly Nvidia chart, we do see clearly that stock did retract all the way back down to these major swing lows. And we did see that bounce, guys. Last time we made the video was right at this green candle over here. A nice green hammer candle pressing up into these highs. And we did see the follow through. So that is good, guys. If we take a trend line to this volume, you really see the buyer interest peak back up within these last few months, which is good to see. It's always nice to see that bullish volume confirmation according to these run-ups. And this major swing low was a very key spot in the past, guys, as we ran all the way from $30, $40 to 100 in about 8 to 9 weeks, guys. That's about a 130% movement, something of that essence. We can actually mark that up, guys. Not quite, around 110%. We had that major movement all the way to these highs before chilling out. Very disciplined candles, getting very thin. You had that breakout accordingly, and this leads to where stock price currently is now. If you want to look at things very broadly, we do have these swing lows and we do have these swing highs, right? This will be the third attempt in the video as far as a macro perspective, re-approaching these levels. And even macro perspective, guys, this is where buyers really should have stepped up. We've seen this very big wide bar pressing down at that level. Didn't want to see stock go too much lower from that, because then at that point we might be working in a bearish trend, right? And then from that perspective, we took out a very major swing low that you didn't want to see. So, we definitely are reapproaching these highs, and we are seeing a bit of an inverted hammer candle as far as the current weekly candle. But as of now, it's nothing to fear. There's not a whole lot of selling pressure within this candle. As stock price only moved about, say about $6, $7 within this week. So not a whole lot of movement, more or less consolidation. We saw this big wide bar pressing up out of this movement, really breaking that channel we mentioned, guys. Some very clean movement. So as of now on the weekly time frame, we got to lean bullish, guys. This is when we zoom way out. We do this on every single analysis. This is a very simple but effective technique, right? You take the bottom of the movement all the way to the top, or if it's inverse, right, the top to the bottom, and that's how you get the overall trend, guys. So if you want to be exact too, we kind of did bounce around this spot. Okay, we're clearly working up. So despite being in a little bit of a range on the weekly, right, with these swing lows and these swing highs, stock still looks very good, getting that volume, pushing up into these highs. So this is the kind of chart, guys, we'll get a lot of our clues on the smaller time frames, as more or less we are in a massive range, moving up in a bullish structure on Nvidia weekly time frame. With that being said, we've got this data. So let's go move over to the daily, get a little bit more of a medium-term analysis. So on the daily time frame, guys, these are the resistance markers we've had up on the chart over the last few months, and they have continued to play out very well. So this further validates these levels, guys. As right now, stock has ran into this $136.33 level, 1, 2, 3, 4 in 5 days out of the last 8 trading days in a row. Right, we have seen one gap up and two, almost a third, not quite, as we did, close right at that wick over there, in the last few weeks, guys. So we do have these gap up zones. So if the market does flush bearish and Nvidia does move down, you would expect these short-term targets to potentially be a spot where stock may bounce around that 123 zone, right? And then the next level being way down here, which is pretty unlikely unless the market is a very nasty retracement around that 118.30, guys. So if stock does retrace all the way down, we will watch these gap zones, as that offers some short-term support, especially amongst the traders in the market, not so much the investors. So, when we zoom out, guys, we get another view of that beautiful channel breakout, which we mentioned in these lows in the last video, and very tight between these two trend lines before breaking out. So as of now, guys, you've clearly seen the bullish action. The bulls step back up, just incredible price action here. We've had one negative candle here after this, boom, big breakout of this channel. The one chance bears had here was this inverted hammer candle, pressing up against this major resistance we mentioned, right? And that wasn't able to do it. It immediately got very tight, squeezed out, held the trend line for about 1, 2, 3 days, more or less 1, 2, right? With these nice hammer candles before moving to the next zone. So we're definitely seeing a lot of strong signs on the daily chart. We are having a little bit of a flag out. If we take out all these drawings, you see we have this very nice flag pull-out structure moving up, a lot of strength within the market, followed by a nice consolidation. Stock coming back down, really getting ready for the next move. Doesn't always mean that stock has to curl up and break out and move up, but this is a bullish pattern as, inherently we're moving up, right? We're starting the break of this structure, moving up, with a nice tight consolidation. If there's any spot where the bear should step up, guys, it's when stock does have a massive movement like this from a short-term perspective, right? Stock moves up 42% from these lows down here, and they're not even really able to hold the stock at all. It's just still being very, very bullish, being tight. So that's what we're seeing on the daily time frame. We're definitely pressed between these two resistance and support zones. That support zone being that 130. I have mine marked up at 129.88. Same thing, guys. It's a general gauge. Between that 130 to 129 is some pretty major support. So we're actually going to go flip that to blue now, as we did reclaim this level. Right now it's support levels. We're clearly starting to validate that on the daily time frame. So keep an eye on this support, guys. This will gauge some nice support levels. We really don't have much support in between 129, 130 to 121. Yes, there's some wicks if you want to be very nitpicky, especially in the hourly at this 125. I don't hate that at all. We will mark that up and make that a smaller line, indicating it is a weaker level than the prior. But guys, we do have that down there. So that's what we're working with on the daily, guys. Just a lot of strength. Obviously we'll be waiting to see if this flag does get validated. We see a nice move over this candle high at around 135. We get a very good chance to retest this resistance level 136.33, right? And then at that point, you would be expecting a breakup to the upside of 141, 150, 149, these kind of levels, guys. So that's what we're getting on the daily. Not a whole lot of rocket science. It's analysis. We're seeing the end of this channel being broken, a little bit of an increase in volume, and just some very nice bull presence. So with that being said, guys, we're definitely bullish on the daily time frame. Watch this flag. We're expecting this flag to break out. Sometimes you see bull flags and you're not as positive about them. There's not as many signs validating these kind of flags, but I think it looks good, guys. And in the past, some of my best NVIDIA trades have actually been on these descending breaks. In the past, we had this other flag, right? We came up very similar to today. Big flag, we came up, but we actually validated these lows. So we crushed them, right? So we moved lower. It's a great indication, guys, for an NVIDIA stock chart, which way the range goes. So we'll be watching the bottom and the top of this range. The bottom of the range, of course, being that 130, 129 level. And yeah, so NVIDIA definitely follows these trend lines to a T. Right in the past is a pretty nice trade as well of mine. 1, 2, 3, easy day movement, moving from $90 to around 98. So it's a nice movement there, guys. And then this, of course, macro descending resistance. But without saying too much, guys, that's what we're looking like on the daily time frame. We're seeing another one of these bull flags being pressed out after some major levels are reclaimed and these swing lows have been recovered. So stock looks definitely good, guys. It's hard to really find any bearish signs for NVIDIA. The only thing you could say is that we are approaching this major resistance levels, which retracts back to the weekly, right? But we definitely are in the grand scheme of things very bullish, guys, with a nice flag forming. So let's go jump over to the hourly and get a little bit more clues as far as a short-term analysis. So looking at NVIDIA hourly chart, we are really seeing, stock respecting these levels, even from a micro perspective, that 115, which we were chanting over here in the channel for quite some time when we were pressing up into that spot. I mean, look how thin these candles are, and that's one thing you always want to take away from NVIDIA. This is a very, very prone stock to technical analysis. It's very responsive, just like a lot of stocks like Tesla, Meta. Some stocks not so much, they're much more volatile and news-based, but NVIDIA is very, very respective to these technical analysis levels and trends. So right away, of course, we're seeing very strong bullish psychology. Not a lot of retracements. When we do see a retracement, we broke this major level with a nice big wide bar. We came back down to that level before testing it a couple times, just getting that really nice bounce, guys. And we've continued to see that all the way up. Even when we top against this major level, and yeah, we fake breaked out here for a little bit, but bulls immediately picked it back up and picked it back up. So it could be a little bit of a short-term indication. Maybe, we come back down and retest this level. If we break this level, there is a little bit of downside as we pretty much just wide barred all the way through. Not really a lot of data points, especially in the micro perspective. So maybe seeing a little bit of early signs of bearishness, guys, but more or less, I think we're just flagging out. Stocks can't just move linear. They don't just move straight up, right? They take their time, they come down, and they get tight. So I think we're seeing a pretty similar thing as far as the NVIDIA hourly time frame. It doesn't mean we have to hold this level, but we definitely are seeing, the beginning of a bull flag-like structure. So that's the number one thing we're seeing on the hourly. Seeing that flag with this descending resistance being here. And, we do have a lot of touch points against this 136.33. So I wouldn't be rushing to the gates right when this bull flag breaks, as we do have to break this level, guys, as we did press against it for a ton of touch points, just very, very thin price action right at this level. So I would like to see that 136.33 be cleared for around at least an hour, strong, not a little blip and then flush. We need to see that held strong. And then at that point, guys, 140, 140, 149.16, these upper levels definitely seem very, very realistic. So, as far as an hourly perspective, guys, we'll be keeping an eye on these higher lows to be set as we want here, 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 and we're continuing to move higher. So, even if stock kind of hangs around and gets even tighter for the next few weeks, maybe consolidates more in this bull flag, maybe the trend does shift, right, guys? Maybe it moves into something like this, and we kind of bounce around these two zones. That's still very, very bullish, guys. And in that situation, guys, once again, we're on a bullish trend, right? From a macro perspective, we're obviously bullish. We're moving in a positive upward momentum, setting higher lows and highs. And even on the lower time frame, guys, right? I mean, look at this movement. The bias has to be bullish because this prior movement is incredibly bullish, and now we're consolidating. So you have to be bullish on this consolidation. And if we do see energy and friction building in the market even more, guys, we could see a pretty nasty flag being printed on the daily. And maybe instead of this kind of being a sloping flag pressing down, right, we have Tesla flagging out right now. See that very nice flag on Tesla. We go over to Meta. Meta's flagging out right now. You see that flag on Meta, right? So a lot of these big stocks are in a very, very similar situation. And I think a lot of them can confirm in the same spot. So this is a nice spot to see, guys. After this nice move up, this very nice move up out of this channel we mentioned, we're starting to see stock really be disciplined and hold at these key levels and consolidate. So you got to be bullish, man. Who knows? We're still approaching these resistance levels. So we are moving into some big macro resistance. But as far as that, guys, we're seeing almost every single bullish indication we can. The bull stepped up where they needed to, and the stock looks good. With that being said, guys, keep an eye on these major marker points. This will be a very good gauge for where the stock price goes. That 130 to 129 support, very solid short-term support. If we do crack too much below this flag could get invalidated. Then you might see a little bit of a pullback, especially being these gap down spots below. All right, keep an eye on these other support zones. And then the next resistance spot being that 136 general range. With that being said, guys, if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, all that. We will be covering Nvidia a couple times a week. It really depends how many times you guys want to see these videos. Completely up to you guys. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, all that. Hope you have a good day. Take care and peace.